What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 23 of the Yard Podcast. I'm your host, Randy.
And I'm your host, Konu.
And we are here ready to talk about the playoffs with you guys. Basically, our entire episode will be about that. But really quickly, do us a favor. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, go ahead, do that. If you don't mind leaving us a rating and review, that would be awesome as well. You can find us on social at Dodger Yard, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. You can find my personal at Randy_Radcliffe.
And you can find my personal at Michael Konu, MYKALKONU.
So let's go ahead and we will go ahead and talk about playoffs really quickly, though. Happy birthday to Kenley Jansen. His birthday is tomorrow. You guys will probably figure this out, but we're recording on Tuesday. We're going to start doing it now so we can hopefully release the episode same day. So game one will be Kenley Jansen's birthday. So Dodgers, you guys need to go out and win that. More so for the fan base than Kenley Jansen. Sorry, Kenley, but we need that win because what I'm getting from Twitter is the entire fan base is already super stressed out about this upcoming series. So really quickly, before we get into the season review, just want to go over they're not injury updates because both these players are fine, but Buehler was activated off of the IL on Thursday, and he made his start against the A's, and he only gave up one hit, no runs, and he struck out 6. He looked great. I thought he looked great. He kind of just seemed like he didn't even miss a step. I feel like it was probably one of his best starts of the season. So I'm happy he's back. We need him. He's always been a huge part of the October success since he's been here. And with that move, White was sent back to the alternate site. And then, of course, those of you who watched Saturday's game, we all saw Mookie take a ball to his hip bone. He ended up coming out of the game. They said it was for precautionary reasons. Mookie is a very small guy. There was no fat where that hit him. That was just straight bone. So the worst case scenario is probably just a very intense bruise. I think it was like a 90-mile-per-hour ball. So it still hurts, but at least it wasn't anything crazier than that. Didn't play Sunday, but he is expected to be good to go for game one of the wild card series, which we absolutely need. So there's no update on that. If we get anything during the show, we will let you guys know, but Mookie sounds like he'll be good to go. And I think with that, everyone on the team's good to go. So let's get into the season review. The Dodgers finished off the season with a 43-17 record, and they only lost one series the entire season, which is slightly ironic going into the series with the Brewers that begins tomorrow, because I think the Brewers only won one series all season. So this is two very, very different teams. Because of the Dodgers record, they will have home field advantage throughout the entire playoffs, which I know to a lot of people, it's not going to seem like a big deal if there's no fans, at least as of yet. We don't know if there will be fans. But having those final at-bats in the games that matter the most are going to be huge. Especially if we get down game 5, game 7, you always want that home field advantage. So you want those last at bats. We already know the extra inning rule, runner will not be on second, so that won't be an issue, but I still always want those final at bats. Really quickly want to go over a couple of stats for Seager and Mookie. They ended up in the leaderboard quite a bit. Seager finished top 10 in the NL with the batting average 307. Mookie actually came in the NL home run leaderboard with 16. He only missed the top spot by 2 home runs. Seager finished 7th in the NL in RBIs. Mookie had 10 stolen bases this season, tied him at 5th. Nice to see someone on the base paths for us doing well. Mookie also scored 47 runs, which is 4th. Seager, I was a little surprised considering Mookie had a handful more home runs, but Seager actually finished with a higher slugging percentage, just came in 7th NL. And
Hit more doubles, didn't he?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think he had actually a decent amount of more doubles because that's what Seager does. But yeah, they finished top 10 in hits. Muncy actually came in top 5, which in walks, not in hits, obviously. I think we all know that was not hits. But I will say he seemed to have dropped down in the strikeouts leaderboard, which is huge. Which I do feel like we've watched over this last week. He's hitting the ball better. He's not getting a ton of hits, but I feel like he's striking out less. He seems to be making better hard contact, so we need that. But I think the same will be said for you. I've had a ton of fun watching this team this season. I personally did not think we would actually make it through 60 games. So I'm just glad we made it this far. Playoffs start today for the AL Wildcard Series, NL Wildcard Series tomorrow. Would have been fun to see how many games they have in a 162 game season, how many wins they would have came away with. But I would have liked to have also seen all the records this team probably would have broken. But on Twitter, someone said apparently if they played at this pace for 162 games, they would have come out with a 116 win season, which is that the best of all time?
Tied the Mariners, right? Yeah.
But the Mariners was 115
Yeah.
or was it 116?
116.
It was one of the okay. 115? Okay. One of the other.
116.
16. Sorry, I can't. Yeah. So my bad. It's 16. I don't know why I had 15, but still, that would have been. The Mariners didn't win though, did they? When they had that season. So yeah, that clearly doesn't mean too much. We've seen it times before. It doesn't always matter how many regular season wins you have, unfortunately. But let's get into our predictions. I'm going to have you go first. So predictions from episode 13. We went over quite a few things. If you want to give me what you thought your predictions were, and then, of course, when it comes to stuff like Dodgers MVP and which rookie you think had the better season, we could probably get into, but I have a feeling we're not. I think we're both going to end up with the same answers everywhere. So go ahead and start that off. Let me know what you think, and then I'll go ahead and give you mine.
So I'm pretty sure I was wrong most of it. I had Betts for hits, and I think Seager had one more hit. I had Muncy on home runs, and it was Betts. I had Julio for ERA. It was Kershaw. So yeah, I didn't do very well. I forgot what other things we did, but I'm pretty sure I was wrong there too. So.
See, okay, so we had the team win-loss record, which we already know both of us were wrong.
I was off by 11.
I was off by 4, which still seems like a ton considering 43-17 is just absolutely ridiculous. There was, of course, the Dodgers MVP, which I think both of us share the same answer. That was Mookie. No really doubt about it. That was the MVP this year. Home run leader, I went with Bellinger. It was Betts. RBI leader, I went with Seager or Turner. Ended up being Seager. Hits leader, went with Seager, like you mentioned him. Kershaw actually had the lowest ERA out of all the starters with a 2.16. I did not see that coming.
Neither did I. No.
I think I saw him having a decent year because it seemed like Driveline had helped him a little bit in spring training. And funny enough, my answer was Buehler, and he actually had the highest ERA out of all of the starters, not including Stripling or Wood, but Kershaw, Gonsolin, May, and Urias. And then we actually went over rookie with the best season. So I went with May. It could have been Gonsolin, but in my opinion, Gonsolin had a few less starts than May, and he, in his last couple starts, it actually hurt him, I think, a little bit with his ERA. So I went with May as having the best rookie season. I don't know if that was the same for you.
Or no, I had Tony G.
Okay. See, I almost went with Gonsolin. I gave it to May just because the ERA was very slightly different. I do think that May didn't have as much consistency as Gonsolin. That's kind of where my thing with Gonsolin is. Gonsolin went deeper into games, which I really appreciate because we saw it this year with guys being a little bit shorter. Starts, we needed that, and Gonsolin was ready to go from the start. Obviously he was in the alternate site, but once he got called up, he was ready to go from the start. So they all had a good season besides Lux and Beatty kind of, but it's all good. They did well. I'm happy. I'm actually very, very interested to see how the young guys will do in the playoffs because Rios wasn't on that playoff roster last year, was he? I don't think he was. No, he wasn't. But I believe Beatty was. Gonsolin was not. So we're going to see quite a few guys get out there. And
it was just May and Lux, right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, they didn't have too many rookies out there last year. I think it kind of surprised some people. A couple of those guys didn't make it, but we'll talk a little bit more because they haven't announced the roster yet. I was kind of hoping they'd drop it before this episode because there's a couple things I'm super interested in to see what they deal with. Jock is a big one. So we could talk about that in a little bit, but I want to go over, let's do a preview of the wild card series Game 1 is on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, so local LA time, and the Dodgers will be hosting the Milwaukee Brewers in a 3-game series for this first series and actually even the next series. But right now we're focused here. Wild card series, there are no off days, so games will be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday if needed. Buehler will get the mound in Game 1. Kershaw will get it Game 2. As of now, no one has decided. Team has not decided on who will pitch Game 3. I'm sure they know. We just don't. We'll give our thoughts on that in a little bit. We both had a couple things to say about the Brewers. So really quickly, I just kind of want to go over a few of their stats. They finished off the season with a 29-31 record, and they only made the playoffs due to the extra teams being added in this year. So they really don't deserve. When you have a below 500 average, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs. I almost feel like that should have been, I know this is going to sound like it would have probably been too much, but I almost would have been fine with saying, like, if your team finishes with below 500, you just don't make the playoffs, and then the Dodgers would have been awarded a bye. Like this, we should have been past this round. If you're below 500, you shouldn't even be in the playoffs. It just kind of felt like a participation trophy this year. More than half the league got in. So we'll see what happens. They're not a good team at all. Their highest, I know a lot of people don't like to go off batting average, but it's a very common stat and a lot of fans understand it. So to give you guys an idea, their highest batting average on the team this year was 260 from Orlando Arcia. And Christian Yelich, the guy we're usually all a little bit worried about, finished with a 205 average. So not really too much to worry about offensively. And even when you mention the OPS on their team, former Dodger Jed Jericho led the team this year with an 838 OPS. And nobody else on the team even had an OPS over 800, which is pretty insane because the Dodgers had quite a bit. You know a lot more about pitching than I do, so I'm going to go with, really quickly, my biggest concern is going to be Devin Williams coming out of the bullpen. He's a rookie. We're seeing what he's doing. It's kind of hard to miss it if you're on Twitter, ESPN, anything like that. He's blowing people away. So what have you seen from him that might make you – he is a bullpen arm, so it's not like Dodgers have to worry about an entire start. However, I have a feeling the Brewers are just going to kind of say, screw it, and they're going to have their bullpen arms go for it, because right about now it seems like that's really only what they got. So
they did that in 2018 as well. Like, they relied on their bullpen arms to get them through that NLCS. I mean, it didn't work out for them, but their bullpen is usually their strong suit. Devin Williams. So he's given up one earned run all year long. He's given up 4 runs all year, but only 1 was earned. And the last time he gave up an earned run was July 27th. Zeros the rest of the way. Dude's pretty nasty. I know he's got a really sick changeup. For the year.
You know what this changeup, though? You know what people are calling it?
What?
They gave it a nickname. It's called the Last Airbender. I don't know why, because apparently it's not just like a normal changeup. There's something more to it. I guess he added a little bit, but that's the nickname they're going with. So just to throw that out there.
Avatar in there. Okay.
Yeah. So if you hear anyone talking about the Last Airbender on air or on Twitter, that's what they're talking about. I just found this out like a day or two ago, but that's what they're calling it, I guess. So I just had to throw that in there. Anyways,
I mean, he had 53 strikeouts in 27 innings. So he's going to be an issue. Of course, they have Hader, but the Dodgers seem to hit Hader pretty well, if I'm not mistaken. They do have Corey Knebel back, so that should be good for them. Claudio should be tough for the lefties. So the Dodgers are going to have their work cut out for them getting to the Brewers bullpen.
I'm kind of interested to see how they'll do against former Dodger Brett Anderson, because for some reason, the Dodgers just don't like to hit lefties. I was kind of hoping, which is funny because, of course, every year of his career, like over career-wise, Mookie's splits are pretty identical. Like, they're almost exactly identical when you look at Mookie's career splits between lefties and righties. And this year, I don't know if it's a Dodger curse or what. Like, once you put on that Dodgers uniform, like, you just can't hit lefties, because Mookie hasn't hit lefties, like, all season. Every single one of his home runs have been off right-handed pitchers. So I don't know why this team cannot hit lefties. I don't know why once Mookie put on a Dodger uniform, he can't hit lefties. Like, it's just, I'm sure it won't stay that way. I don't expect it to stay that way for Mookie. 2020 is a very weird year, but like you mentioned, Josh Hader, we've seen the Dodgers do some pretty big things against him in the past. Not too concerned. I know a lot of people will look at his ERA from this season and see that it's a 3.79 and think like it's not that impressive, which it's not, but it is a super short season. So the ERAs are much more inflated than what they probably would be over the span of an entire 162 season. For some guys, obviously, for some guys, they're much lower than they would probably be in a 162 season. But his ERA really only stems from one outing where he gave up 4 runs. And outside of that, he's only given up more than one run in an outing once. So he's really been on top of his game this year. The ERA does not really show that, but he's not given up too many runs. He also has thrown a decent amount of innings less, I think, than Devin Williams. So I don't know if they're trying to stay away from him or what is not as much this year. But yeah, I think the biggest concern is going to be the bullpen. The Dodgers have to hit. I think it's kind of pretty obvious that this series is going to be the definition of the Dodgers cannot beat themselves. Because if they do, the Brewers could win. 2020 is such a weird year that I think a 3-game series freaks everybody out. It stresses me out like no other. All it takes is one bad outing from a Dodger starter and you're down 1 game and have to win the next 2 without losing. So anything can happen. But speaking of players, every year I kind of feel like we hear people say, which is true, the Dodgers will only go as far as Kenley Jansen takes them. Kershaw's name is thrown in there as well, but we only have one closer, so Jansen gets a little bit more of that pressure put on him. So I have a question for you. Which player or players are going to have to be on top of their game in order for the Dodgers to win it all this year?
I feel like the obvious answers are Seager and Bellinger. Just because of their postseason struggles, if they play just semi close to what they do during the regular season, that I don't think anybody can beat the Dodgers. But if Betts is healthy and he can set the table at the top of the order, create havoc by stealing bases, then getting any kind of contribution from anybody else, the Dodgers should be fine. But Seager and Bellinger for sure.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple guys. I did have Seager in there. However, Mookie was my other guy. For me, offensively, I need it to be Mookie and Seager. And I only say that is because both guys have awful career playoff numbers. Seager's career playoff slash line is 203, 275, 331 with an OPS of 605. Betts' career postseason line, not much better. 227, 313, 341 with an OPS of 654. I know you're not a fan when fans say they think they have a feeling things are going to change and they don't have an answer, but this is 2020, so I don't care. That's how I feel about Mookie and Seager. I don't think they are going to continue struggling like this in playoffs. Seager hasn't really been fully healthy when you look back at 2017, so his numbers are not the best to look at. Mookie's obviously aren't great, but I don't know. I just, for some reason, I can't see either of them continuing to struggle. It's a small sample size, but playoffs are playoffs. It's a different beast. I know a lot of people want to say you can't look at it. It's only a certain amount of games. But for me personally, I truly believe that with sports, there are different players that are made for those moments and there are players that are not. And you see it every year. As much as I could not stand Madison Bumgarner, you can't find too many other players that you can say were built for October like he was when the games mattered most. He was not a great regular season pitcher. His numbers showed us that. But there are some guys that for some reason when they hit October, they can be the best in the game and they could be whatever, or we can see Bellinger put up an MVP season and then do absolutely nothing in the playoffs. So for offense, that's where it is. For pitching, the answers are kind of obvious for me. It's Kershaw and Jansen. I have a lot more faith in Kershaw this year, though, than I've seen in years past. I was always very, very hard on Kershaw after hearing about the cheating scandal. I gave him a lot more benefit of the doubt because that game, what was it, game 5 in Houston that he pitched? that one killed me. So I blamed Kershaw for that one for until I heard the Astros cheated. So I see a few signs of his old self this year. I think there's a fire underneath him after finding out about the Astros cheating scandal. I think he's come out and shown it this year. He's thrown the ball a little bit harder at times. But when you talk about Jansen, I am so uneasy about seeing him come into a game. And I just don't know if I can feel any other way at this point, seeing him come into a game. Even when he's had his last couple outings where he's looked okay and the games did not matter, I still had so much anxiety in my chest just seeing him come into the game, because it's like, the games don't matter, but it's almost time for games that are going to matter. And he isn't looking the greatest, but I don't know. Did you pay much attention to his last two? I think it was 2 or 3 games over the last.
Real fast, I wanted to say I still feel uneasy about Kershaw a little bit just because his last few starts weren't the greatest and his velocity was dipping down again. So that made me pause a little bit. As far as Jansen goes, he did look a little better in his last few starts. I mean, I missed the last game just because I wasn't feeling well. But yeah, Jansen, he makes me the uneasiest out of everybody. Has for 3 years now. I think he'll be fine the first series. Or I hope so, because if he's blown against the Brewers, then we're screwed against offense who can actually hit the ball. So I don't know.
Is it bad? Is it bad that I'm hoping like the offense just blows out every team, so like we don't even have to see him unless it's like a 5-run lead? Like, I'm hoping Roberts only puts Jansen in because he's been like, okay, it's been a week since you pitched, you have to go into this game. Yeah. Like, I'm hoping that's how the offense does, that we don't even have to worry about it.
Well, I do think he should get into games just because it's going to be 3 days since they last played, and who knows how the first couple games are going to go. If it goes 3 games, I think he has to get into one just so he'll have a little bit of a rhythm going into the next series should the Dodgers move on.
So if you put him into a game, do you wait until the 9th inning, or do you just toss him in when it is the best for the matchups, the team, whatever the case may be?
If it's like, I don't know, 9-3, I throw him in.
Yeah, I feel that. I have.
But then again, he blew a 7-2 lead to the Astros. Now, the Astros are probably better offensively, but it still doesn't give me confidence to know that he can blow a 5-run lead just like that.
Yeah, we've seen it more than once, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I'm about the same. I've always understood the closer role. This year, I think, completely gone anti-closer. Like I've mentioned on podcasts, and I think I've mentioned this to you over text, there is not one position in baseball where a player is guaranteed that position if they are not the best one on the team. That, like, it doesn't happen. You put your best players out there, but for some reason, baseball does this weird thing with closers that even if your closer isn't doing well, that's still your closer, and I absolutely hate it. Innings 1 through 8, granted, you have your starters, so we'll get rid of, let's say, the first 5 innings. Innings 6, 7, 8, it's about matchups. So why, when we get to the 9th, are we not worried about matchups? Why are we just going, this is our closer, throw him in, even if we know that in the past our closer has not done good against these specific batters, this team, whatever the case may be? So I have gone full anti-closer. I just want to see the best pitcher in there. Whoever's playing the best, whoever has the best matchups, best numbers, that's who I want in there.
The only problem is now that they have to face 3 batters, though, which is the stupid part. So, like, if there wasn't that rule, then I have no problem throwing in like a Victor Gonzalez to face a Christian Yelich, and then pull him for a better matchup. But since we can't do that, I don't know how they're gonna work around that.
It's a little harder. That is a good point. I didn't really think about that because I don't like that rule. I think it's stupid. But yeah, I don't know. I still think the way the Dodgers have gone about it this year, I feel like the guys are much better than they have been in the past about facing other pitchers. Lefties facing righties, righties facing lefties. Like you mentioned Victor Gonzalez, I would be super confident throwing Victor Gonzalez out there to face anyone, especially if we're up by more than 1, because the home run ball can happen at any point, especially in LA right now with how hot it is. I think it's hot. I actually don't know. I haven't been there in forever, but it seems hot from what I've been told. So the ball always flies out of there. We see it in October almost every year these last couple of years, because climate, global warming, all that good stuff. But
It's going to be
yeah.
100 degrees tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, fun. But yeah, ideal. I mean, for us, for Milwaukee, that's going to suck. Our guys are used to it. That is one advantage that I really appreciate coming out of the West Coast. However, like when we went to Boston that in 2018, that was like the complete opposite for us. Like I feel like we were so screwed because I don't know if those guys have ever played in weather that cold besides like maybe college. So yeah, we'll see. But Jansen, please get it together. Tomorrow's your birthday, so if you probably will pitch tomorrow, I would imagine so. Like you mentioned, it's been a few days, so go out there and do well, please. Another thing we will talk about is Game 3. The Dodgers have yet to announce a starter, which isn't really surprising the way 2020 has gone. They've kind of done this a few times, or they'll announce a starter and then all of a sudden it changes like the night before. So I'm wondering, and you can give me your answer and then we'll go over it a little bit, but will the Dodgers use an opener in Game 3, or will I don't think it'll be Urias, but may Gonsolin or Urias get the start? So out of the 3 guys who are left over in our 5-man, do they go with an opener? And if they do, who do you think gets the bulk innings? And if they're going with a starter, who is it?
I don't know if they go with an opener. If they do go with an opener, then to me that makes me feel like it's going to be Urias because he can't pitch in the first inning. But if they give it a start, I would go with Gonsolin. But at the same time, if it's May, I would not hate it just because we know that the velocity plays up in the playoffs. So I think May could really be used well there. And as long as they give us 5 solid innings, then I think they'll be okay. So actually, I'm going to switch. I'm going to go from Gonsolin. I'll give it to May just because I think the velocity is going to play up. We've seen it before with like Scherzer and Strasburg where the velocity really plays in the postseason. So I'll give it to May.
Yeah, I went with, I feel like they'd go with Gonsolin. I don't really know if I think they will have an opener. Part of me wonders if it's going to depend what happens in Game 1 and 2. Like they may not make a decision until they get through the first 2 games. It might depend on bullpen usage. They might see the matchups between hitters. They might go, okay, well, the Brewers have been doing this against our pitching the last 2 days. This is our best way to do this. I mean, the Brewers haven't announced their starter for tomorrow night, so I have a feeling this is kind of.
It's not going to be Woodruff?
I don't know. They just haven't announced it. They said
Game 2? Okay.
Oh, yeah,
maybe they throw Brett Anderson Game 1 to get the lefty out there.
No, I don't think. I would. They probably don't want. I don't know.
Brett Anderson, he started Sunday and exited with a blister. So we might. Okay. If anything, Game 3 that'd be regular rest for him, but probably not with his blister.
Well, I'd
so
like to
Josh Lindblom.
I don't know.
From what I'm reading, it sounds like it might be bullpen games 1 and 3.
Oh, how interesting.
Woodruff Game 2.
Huh.
Okay.
Well, since you're on here, because I'm not going to have you edit that out because that was good information. For those of you that don't, well, none of you know, but that was our producer, Ray. He's been helping us these last few episodes. He does all of our editing for us, and he stat checks us and fact checks us to make sure we're not giving you guys any wrong information. So that was him. If you hear him popping in from time to time, that's who that is. But yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you because I don't know anything about Brewers pitching.
So it sounds like if the Brewers are going with an opener, then I can see an opener with like maybe, I don't know, Claudio or something, and then throwing out Freddie Peralta to go 4 innings or try to get 4 innings from Freddie Peralta in Game 1.
I'm not even going to pretend to know what they're going to do because I have no idea. Someone brought up a good point. It's a very, very weird feeling going into the playoffs against an NL team, knowing we haven't played them once all year. Usually we have some kind of idea. Like when you get to the World Series, playoffs in general are crapshoot. When you get to the World Series, you've either faced that team could have faced him that year, or you haven't faced him for 3 years. You don't really know. In this case, we haven't seen the Brewers in a year. It's a totally different team. Maybe not. They're kind of playing like it. However, I will say someone on Twitter also made another good point. The NL Central was facing better pitchers than probably most of the NL West, because outside of the Dodgers and a couple Padre pitching, like, does anyone in the NL West really actually have pitching? Like, there's not really much there. Robbie Ray's awful this year. Bumgarner's awful this year. Luke Weaver, I feel like, started okay. But when you look at the bulk of it, like in the NL Central.
Zach Gallen's really good.
Yeah. In the Central, though, you've got multiple potential Cy Young candidates in Darvish and Bauer. Then you've got Gray. You've got Castillo. So
I've completely missed Darvish. I didn't know he was pitching well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was one of the best pitchers in baseball till I don't know what happened, but he's like in second or third for Cy Young. I think Bauer is going to take home the Cy Young, but Darvish is right up there. He's having a great year. Granted, it was at the beginning more so than anything, but he hasn't been like bad. Like
the Reds pitching is scary.
Yeah. That's the only thing that's scary on that team, though. So if their pitchers do not show up ready to shut the other team out, they might be in trouble. But again, I think I actually read they're like 50% of their hits are mostly home runs. Like, that's mostly what they do, I think, is the Reds, is they mostly hit home runs, which makes sense if you look at their lineup. So teams like that can be a little concerning because their pitching is so good that all it takes is one or two of their players to go deep, and then that's the game. But we'll see. I think in a 3-game series, they'll be very good. I think once you hit 5 or 7, you're going to see a totally different team, just because pitching, when you have 3, it's only going to get you so far. But yeah, I think back to the game 3, I think it might depend on how things go. I would like to see Gonsolin out there probably more. But I do like May because of the velocity. Gonsolin brings a very calm everything to the game, more than a ton more than May. I love the way May plays, but that dude shows emotion like right up there with Buehler and Kershaw, where Gonsolin, like, you don't even know half the time if he's happy with his outing, mad, or anything, because he just goes out there and does his job, and that's it. And game 3, if they get to a game 3, it's going to be a ton of pressure. And so I just don't know who the best would be. I don't like Urias either way. So I'd probably go with Gonsolin, but I would be okay with either or.
That's fair.
I think it depends on how things go. I don't know if I actually see the Dodgers making any type of announcement.
That's actually fair. I didn't think about him being like a calming presence, because he is. I usually don't see, you're right, he doesn't usually get like too high or too low. The only time I saw him show like he was frustrated was in that not split squad game, but that game they showed on YouTube during the season, when he was giving up home runs. He seemed to be slightly frustrated, like he couldn't execute his pitches, but that was it. That's the only time I've seen him really frustrated or anything.
He doesn't show much emotion, and I think with the team that might, if we go to a game 3, that might be what we need, because I know as a fan right now, if we go to a game 3, I have to say this first, because I feel like to you it might come off as bullshit, so I need to kind of explain a little bit. I have been very kind of about playoffs all year. I have kind of been on the side of things that 2020 has sucked, so if the Dodgers won, it would give us some positivity, but I'm also on the same side that I've never seen a World Series in my lifetime. I've waited 27 years. I've been to the World Series the last 2 years, 2017, 2018. I was at both elimination games for those World Series. I don't really want the first one in my lifetime to come where we can't have a parade. We can't even be there to cheer on the team. It might be in Texas, but to me, that's not the same if neither Texas team is even in it. I mean, even if the Astros are, it's not their home field. Like, it's not the same. We don't get to be there with our friends. We can't be at bars. We can't be doing all the crazy, like the good, fun, crazy stuff we did for all those other playoff games. So I don't know really how I feel yet. I think my opinion's going to change once we're in it. I think I'm going to actually get super into it because I feel like every year before playoffs start, I'm kind of and then once the games get going, I really stress out. So we'll see what happens. I think I'm a little bit
I'm on the same
nervous, but
page. I'm on the same page you are. I feeling kind of. I mean, as a Dodger fan, I should want them to win, but I don't. So if they
yeah.
lose, it's okay. But I've kind of felt like that way all year long, and I don't see it changing. Even when the first pitch starts, I'm gonna be like, if you guys lose, I'm gonna be good regardless, because this season was just whatever to me.
This
Next season will hopefully be a different story, though.
This season was all about making sure Mookie Betts was going to be a Dodger past 2020 in my mind. That's all I cared about. Once they announced that we weren't getting a full 162 and we weren't even going to get half of a season, all I cared about was making sure Mookie stayed. Once they did that, the season was good for me. Next thing I wanted was win the division because I didn't want them to lose their streak on a 60-game season. But yeah, if they win, it's not like I'm going to be mad, but I don't think there will be as much disappointment in years past because it'll be different. If they win, I have a feeling my emotions will be very different. I think I will be, I know I'll be excited because we've never experienced it. There's just also going to be that feeling inside like, damn, I wish I was in LA. I wish I was at the game, or I wish I was at a bar with friends, even people I don't know, just celebrating. And like me and my friends have talked about plans for the parades the last even 3 years. 2019, we were already making plans because that team was insane and everything that happened. But doing this so many years in a row, I think I've noticed I'm starting to kind of become numb to all of it. When you have your hopes up so many years in a row, I don't think there's many teams outside of the Dodgers and Yankees that their fan base is told year after year, you are the World Series favorites or the second favorite in the league. So I think when that continues to happen and you continue to lose, it's harder than being on a team that you're kind of like, oh, well, we weren't supposed to make it anyways, but here we are. When you're supposed to win and you don't, it hurts a lot more. And I think I'm becoming much more numb to it. Like 2009, last year, that was the first time I ever cried, like bawled my eyes out at a baseball game because I was at Game 5 against the Nationals. And then it would I deleted Twitter off my phone for an entire week. Like that series took me out because I could not believe. Like I thought it could happen because the pitching was good. But I just couldn't believe that we came out of it. I was convinced we were going to the World Series. I didn't know if we'd win it, but I was convinced we'd be there. And that just didn't end up happening. And so now I feel like how much worse can it really get? I've seen them lose back-to-back years in the World. Well, we've all seen them lose back-to-back years in the World Series. Then we find out we're cheated and we lose in 2019 in the first round when this is a 106 win team. Like, I just don't know how much more this can actually hurt. So I think I'm kind of prepared either way for this postseason, no matter what happens. If we win, dope, I'll be celebrating it. It still counts. If we lose, whatever, I'll be ready to go next season. It still counts. I do not think this takes any value out of the trophy. There have been a lot of players that have come out and said that this might actually be harder than a 162 game season because of everything that took place. Players had to hype themselves up. Like, imagine if the fan base was there. You go 43-17 without fans at the game. Imagine if the fan base was there. This fan base travels all over the country. So I don't know. It's a very weird situation. Most Dodger fans are like, I hope this is the year. And it's very hard for me because I'm not going to respond back and be like, well, I don't. Because I mean, that's not true. But also like, I've waited 27 years. I don't mind waiting another 1, 2, or whatever it is. I just need once in my lifetime. That's all I want. I just want one that I can remember and I can enjoy, and I'll be good. I don't need this year after year.
I think for me that if they did win it this year, I'm not gonna lie, I might be slightly pissed off. Like, oh, you guys would win it this year where we can't do anything.
It's the most Dodger thing that could happen.
Yes, exactly. That's why I think they might end up winning it. I like I said, I don't want to really see them win, but had they played the Giants, I definitely would want to see them win because being eliminated by the Giants would probably be worse than losing to the Nationals last year. I think if that were to happen, I would have deleted everything. I mean, I don't post on social media anyway, but I wouldn't be on it to see what was being talked about or anything, because that would have been brutal.
My thing is, if they're going to lose, just do it in the first round. I don't need my hopes getting built up. Don't get me excited, because that's what'll happen. I'm gonna be whatever about it now, and that's what'll happen. And then they're gonna go and beat the Brewers, and I'll start to get more excited. And then if they go and beat whoever the next team is, we go to the NLCS, my excitement, it'll just keep going. And like 2020 has been such a shit show. I just don't need anything else that's gonna just like crush me. So if they're gonna do it, like please just do it in the first round so we can all find a way to move on and get on with our life, because this build up stuff like is not what we need. And the last thing Dodger fans need right now is for a build up that we think this is going to be the year and then complete crashing down. I told you, I'm convinced.
What if they lose to the Yankees in the World Series? Would you be pissed off?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, don't get me wrong. I will not take away value from any team that wins it. It's just as hard. But at the same time, it would be funny to be able to go at Yankee fans like, yo, you guys won, and you've been like, you're bragging about your 27 rings all the time, but it's like, cool, you guys finally won in a 60-game season where your whole roster didn't have a chance to get hurt for once. Like, I don't know. I probably would if it's the Yankees.
They were hurt though.
I know they did, but somehow they managed to not end up like 60-day IL, like it seems like that happens every year with guys on their team. Yeah, I don't know. Astros are ass. As long as we don't lose to them, I think I'd be okay. I'm actually really would love to see a Dodgers and White Sox World Series.
So you see Tim Anderson?
Yeah, I like the White Sox a lot. If I had to pick a team in the AL, that's who I would go for. Plus, they don't hit good pitching well.
They've been struggling the last few weeks though.
Yeah, I don't know if they've won a game like in the last five games. They had the NL or the AL Central locked up, and then they lost like 5 or 6 games in a row. I don't know.
The Rays had the best record, right?
Yeah, the Rays have the best in the AL. We have the best in all of baseball. But yeah, so we'll see. I would like Chicago. I'd like to.
The Rays have good pitching.
Yeah,
and Blake Snell's a lefty, which is not great.
Yeah, the Rays would worry me a little bit about pitching. A team like the Minnesota Twins would worry me a little bit too, just because that team is full of hitters.
Did you guys see, not to cut you off or anything, but this has nothing to do with anything, but you see Josh Johnson didn't make the wild card roster?
No, that's weird.
He's not on it.
I wonder if something happened.
He's injured. At least that's what I saw.
Oh, okay, I didn't see what happened. I just saw he wasn't on it, and I was like, well, that's interesting.
I saw, because I saw him play, I think it was a week or a week and a half ago, whenever it was, he kicked the dirt on the home plate when he hit.
That was amazing. That was amazing.
That shit was so petty. I was dying. I was laughing. I can't be mad at it. Like, I could get how people are like, it's disrespectful, but I think these guys are just tired of these calls by umpires. Especially in 2020, they've been rough. Granted, I've tried to be a little bit easier on the umpires because a lot of these guys should not be big league umpires. A lot of the big league umpires opted out. So we're seeing a lot of probably AA and AAA umpires who also have not been allowed to see their families because they've been quarantined, stuff like that. So I've tried to be a little bit easier on the umps, but there have been some stuff this year that it is just, oh boy, it's bad. We did not end up with Joe West or Angel Hernandez in our first series, just so everybody knows. Now that we've been randomly going on about whatever for the last who knows how many minutes, last question, well, sort of. Who is someone that could unexpectedly step up? Like, who do you think is either going to finally figure it out in October or could be that surprising kind of guy that's nobody sees coming out and having a good postseason?
I went with Edwin Rios just because he seemed to have found his groove recently, and I think he come up pretty big and has some clutch hits in the playoffs. Will Smith as well. I think he's primed to step up to the plate. I don't know about anybody else. I don't know if we're even going to see Jock. I don't think Lux makes it because a pitcher will probably take his spot. Maybe Seager's been hot. I think he's been a little down recently though, so I don't know. But Rios.
Okay. Yeah, Rios has looked good. We've talked about him. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love for Rios to take all of Jock's at bats come October. No offense, Jock, but he's hitting the ball a lot better. Jock did have a couple hits in this last series over the weekend. I will give him that. But like we've mentioned, his head is elsewhere, as it should be. I do not blame him one bit. He should be focused on his family. I just, at the end of the day, as a fan, you deserve to focus on your family, give them all your time. He doesn't owe anybody anything. He doesn't have to be here. If you're not going to make it into the other rounds of the playoffs, I would just rather get a guy out there who is going to play, so that way he's not coming into the second round cold while the team is traveling. So we'll see what happens. I still hope whatever's going on, the Peterson family is doing okay, because you can tell that there's still a lot going on, and it's very sad and unfortunate. I did want to go over, though, because you brought up Will Smith. Did you see Jorge Castillo's tweet from LA Times about catchers batting over the last 2 years in the playoffs? Because if you didn't, it's interesting. So over the last 2 years, in 21 playoff games, the Dodgers catchers have batted 129 with a 485 OPS and 34 strikeouts. That's awful. So they're hoping this year, apparently I didn't read the article, but they're hoping that Will Smith can change that. We've seen, especially having Grandal, not that his numbers are too much in those last 2 years. He's only in there for the first year but that dude had a 50% strikeout rate in the playoffs. So that was never going to get us anywhere offensively with him. I just hope Will Smith is not like Grandal, where Grandal was a good hitter during the regular season. And then once it came to October, he just completely fell apart. Another interesting,
like everybody else.
Yeah, but we got our 3 every year, or 4. We got 4 every year. Buehler, Jock, Muncy, Turner. Every year, those are the guys you count on in October. Outside of that, we're still kind of waiting for another few guys to step up. Mine for this year was Bellinger, because I'm hoping he finally figures it out. We're so used to Bellinger having a pretty strong regular season, and then coming October just falling completely off everywhere. So I'm hoping that maybe this year's different. He seems to be having a lot more fun at the plate recently on the base paths. I feel like we're seeing him run out ground balls a lot harder than he was at the beginning of the season when he was struggling middle of the season. So I'm hoping that 2020, as weird as it's been, maybe this is the year that Bellinger's just like whatever in the regular season and then comes out and like pops off in October. Because that would be a lot of fun to see him, Seager, Mookie, and then of course Turner come out there and kind of do their thing as the top 4 in the lineup. However, someone I'm actually really interested in is AJ Pollock.
There you go. Yep.
The unfortunate strikeout machine of the NLDS last year. He was hurt last year a bit. We saw him have a much better second half, but what he's doing this year, I'm not sure many Dodger fans saw that coming. He tied Mookie with the most home runs on the team, which is crazy because Pollock didn't even play every single game to start the season. And I knew he had power. I didn't see him up there with Betts.
Well, he had power. Like 8. He had 8 in September or 9.
Yeah, 8 or 9. Yeah, it was. Yeah, which is crazy. Which is perfect. Which is the time to start.
Him and Taylor were really hitting in September.
Yeah, and Taylor's also another one who's been decent for us in years past in October. He had that NLCS MVP the one year, 2018, I think that was. So, there's a lot of guys. No, it was 2017, wasn't it, with Turner?
17.
Yeah, 18 was Bellinger.
Bellinger won in 2018. Yeah. He made the catch, though, in that game 7.
That's what it is. Okay, I was thinking about the Taylor catch. So kind of a rematch of that 2018 postseason, NLCS, but now we've got 4 less games. So went to game 7. I don't see it going to game 3, which is kind of my prediction for this. I see the Dodgers winning the first 2 and it being done. I think anything could happen. It could go 3, but I don't think that that's actually going to happen. I'm assuming you're on the same page or no?
No.
You think it goes 3?
Because the Dodgers will be the Dodgers and something's going to go terribly wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I tweeted yesterday that I said, this is the best Dodgers team I've seen, which in my opinion, I think statistically it is. There's a lot of, there were a few arguments in there for 2017, which is fair. Bullpen was probably stronger in 2017, but I think this offense is something different. When the guys are there, I should say, because we've had some guys that weren't. But I had tweeted out that I thought this was the best team I've ever seen, but I'd be lying if I wasn't prepared to have my heart absolutely ripped out of me for the 8th straight year. And there were a lot of fans that felt that way. And I'm starting to realize it just becomes like a Dodger fan, I think, mentality that your thoughts are always the Dodgers. It's a Dodger thing. They're going to do it. Like, to me, the most Dodger thing that would happen is they either have Mookie Betts and they get knocked out of the first round, or they win it all in a year that's only 60 games. Like, those to me are Dodger playoffs right there. It's one or the other. It's just how it is. I think as a Dodger fan, you don't know what you're going to get. So game starts tomorrow. Doesn't start till 9:00 my time, so I'm going to be sitting around stressed. Luckily, there's going to be a lot of baseball games to watch. We don't know what time it is yet on Thursday or Friday. They haven't announced it, so unfortunately, we cannot provide you with any of that. However, lots of AL games. I think the Astros and Minnesota game actually starts in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we have plenty of more games tomorrow, 8 playoff games, which is insane to think about, for NL, for AL. So yeah, plenty of baseball. I think it starts at like 11 a.m. or something. Well, 11 a.m. I think I want to say Pacific time tomorrow, something like that. So full slate of baseball. The game will be on ESPN, so do not miss that. I didn't have much more to go over. Did you have anything else?
No, just that I wish the game didn't start at 7.
Yeah, me too, because it doesn't start till 9. But yeah, so we'll see. I feel okay today. I think tomorrow I'm not gonna feel so great. So we'll see what happens
I'm gonna be A-okay, and I think tomorrow you're gonna get a big hit out of Pollock.
I just give me 5. Okay, so big hit from Pollock, and give me 5 either scoreless or 1-run ball from Buehler, and I'll be happy. I don't care what else he does. I don't care how many hits he gives up. Not this first game. This first game, I just need him to keep the score low.
You're going to get 7 and like it.
All right. Well, we'll see. I'll take that too. I'd happily take that. I love watching that dude pitch, especially when the games really matter. So,
should have said that, because now I jinxed him. He's going to go 1 2/3 with 8 runs.
What are you doing right now? Stop talking. Because then we're going to get blamed for this. Now, Buehler, if there's anyone out there who I think I have the most confidence in, it would probably be Turner and Buehler to figure it out. So I think Buehler's one of those guys. He pitches like he doesn't give a shit about the regular season, I feel like. I feel like that dude is so locked in for games that matter that when the games don't matter, he's just trying to figure his own thing out on the mound. He's trying to work on his mechanics. And then when the games matter most, he really, really shuts it down. I'm sure most fans heard about this, but last year prior to, I think it was game 4, it might have been game 4, because it was 5-game series. So they would have been in Washington. Yeah, for game 4. So I don't know, for those of you that did, or I'm sure everyone knows now about his aunt, I believe it was, passed away last year before the game. And he actually came out and pitched one hell of a game 5, and he talked about her. So I know he had felt awful, even though it wasn't his fault. We lost game 5. He pitched fantastic. He had felt awful about going out there and losing. So I definitely see him coming out and playing with a huge fire. That guy plays for his family. We've heard about the story about his uncle and all of that stuff. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Buehler.
Buehler's had good games in the 18 season or postseason, but that World Series start, I was just like, okay, he's got it.
Yeah, I think that, and then you have the NLCS Game 7, which was 2018. That whole thing for him was weird because Game 163, insane, completely dominated that. Then you throw him in NLCS. I know he pitched before that, but NLCS Game 7, like he was Oh, he was good in his other starts, but like when the Dodgers had to win, like they could not lose game 3 of the World Series in 2018 because if they did, it was basically done and over at that point. Buehler gave the team and the fan base hope with that outing and helping bring home the win. So yeah, I think when it matters most, and I think in a 3-game series, game 1 is probably obvious. Like, I think that's going to be one of the most important games. Whichever team has the momentum is going to be the team feeling good. So yeah, I don't know. As long as we get, I think Buehler's going to be the key to tomorrow's game. I'm not too worried about their pitching unless they just decide to throw Devin Williams in there for like God knows how many innings, but he's a rookie, so we can all pray and hope they don't risk it too much with him out there.
Now the good thing is he is a right-hander, and the Dodgers have hit right-handers pretty well.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't thinking about that, but yeah. Other than that, I had nothing else to say.
I expect it to be kind of ugly since they haven't played each other, so it might be like an ugly series.
It could, yeah, it could. Both teams don't really know each other this year. You have Belly and Yelly, who are supposed to both be these huge MVP candidates every year, playing horrible. Bellinger, I think, has done better.
Did they work out together this offseason?
Probably.
If they did, don't do that again.
It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, whatever. Because watching both of them suck is not fun. I kind of like Yelich, so. I do. Not this series. He doesn't need to do anything. That's the one thing I'm worried about. Like, I just hope this isn't the series that like he pops off and is all of a sudden Christian Yelich again. So we shall see what happens. But I'm excited. Got our first game tomorrow. I've got nothing else to say. So unless you do, as always, we hope you guys have a great rest of your day, morning, night, weekend, whenever you listen to this. Don't forget to watch tomorrow night's game. Going to be a stressful one, and hopefully a week from now we'll be recording no matter what happens in this series. So hopefully a week from now it is a positive podcast and not us coming on here to bitch and complain. So we will let you guys know then. Again, follow us on social media at Dodger Yard. Check out our website, dodgeryard.com. Rate and review the podcast, and we will talk to you guys next week. Bye, guys.
See you later, guys.